We have closed two very interesting sessions about what's going on from, let's say, project-wise on our territory and concerning urban air mobility in its various aspects. So it's time for a final question, or always the question, what's next? So first of all, what's next? What's kind of boiling around us, both from an entrepreneurial point of view and from a territorial point of view? And I would like to ask that question to Veronica Spadoni.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you, Elena, for having invited me here today. And as Lorenzo mentioned, today during my presentation, I'm going to introduce two key aspects. The first one is a quite brief, I hope, outlook and overview of the advanced air mobility market at global level and Italian level, of course. And secondly, I'm going to introduce to you the Piemonte innovation ecosystem. As a cluster manager of the ICT innovation hub of the Piedmont region, I have the honor to meet several entrepreneurs, and I'm talking from start-uppers to small, medium enterprise toward large corporations, which are actually part and member of our innovation hub. And so I'm going to provide you also with some insightful information about all the funding opportunity tools that we have here in our region. Thank you. Yeah, I need... Okay, so here we are. These numbers are actually coming from the McKinsey, the latest McKinsey Air Mobility report, which was published in 2024. As a matter of fact, next week, McKinsey will come up with the new number, which are not in my hand yet, unfortunately. So as you can see in this slide, there's actually two main points that we should highlight. First of all, there's plenty of opportunities in the market. However, as you can see, starting from 2001, we are facing a slowdown, a downturn in the market. And there are a couple of reasons for this. We're going to show what comes up. Let me see. Yes. Non c'è un puntatore? No. Okay. So here we are. This is one of the main two shifts I mentioned before. The first shift is that until 2021, the most funded segment of the advanced air mobility was actually the segment of urban air mobility and what is called electrical vehicle takeoff and landing vehicle. So right now, we are seeing a change. Urban air mobility is no more the most funded segment, but the most funded segment is the one related to surveillance and cargo drones. So basically, the reason why we are here today, we saw several use cases this morning, and as a matter of fact, this is the new segment where venture capital and investors are actually financing. The reason for this are several. The market is basically driven by some key factors, and we're going to see which one are these in the next slide. The first one is the advancement in technology. The market got an acceleration. First of all, one important thing to say is that advanced air mobility comes from the convergence of three main industries: the ICT industry, the automotive industry, and of course the aerospace industry. And we're facing, thanks to new enabling technologies such as artificial intelligence, but also propulsion technologies, very interesting advancement. The second one, key factor, is of course the regulatory framework. I'm not going through this aspect because I know that in the panel there's an expert that will talk about this later on, but definitely the fact that in Italy, for the first time a couple of months ago, ENAC came up with a regulation about vertical capable aircraft regulation, together with the Drone 2.2 strategy of the European Commission. Of course, this will enable and improve the applicability and opportunity in this segment. The third key factor is, on the other hand, the growing investment funding. As we saw before, however, we mentioned the fact that the market is having a downturn. One of the reasons is because we are seeing a shift in investment. Before, investment was mainly done by venture capitalists, and right now we have to, and we are moving toward public funding. There are several reasons for this. Most of you probably are aware that startups that begin to enter the market, such as Volocopter or Lilium, are facing difficult times right now. One of the reasons for this is because they were moving toward type certification. So basic research, concept development requires a certain amount of money, but commercialization is what requires the most of money. And also, if venture capital comes at the early stage, once you reach commercialization, you also need infrastructure. I'm talking about, for instance, vertiports. And these where public institutions need to come, and together with regulatory, of course. The fourth framework driver is actually what we know. There's need for urbanization and reduction of congestion, and also the other two key driver factors that are, of course, environmental sustainability, which comes together with the need for reduction of congestion, and finally, an increase in defense investments. We know that the geopolitical situation right now is moving in public investment toward defense, but defense comes with dual use too. So this can be also an opportunity for civil projects in this field. Okay. Together with the key driver comes the critical challenge. And the critical challenge, some of the critical challenge are the same that the key drivers. If on one side the new regulatory framework become a key driver opportunity, on the other end right now we are facing the fact that regulatory barriers can be an issue. Especially right now, we are seeing that the world is kind of divided in two parts. On one side, we have the world that operates with the EASA and the FAA regulation, which are quite strict and difficult to comply with. On the other hand, we have Asia, Saudi Arabia, that works with a very light regulation. And this allows for an acceleration of the project. So if on one side we saw Lilium, Volocopter, and the European Western company having difficulty, on the other hand, we are seeing players such as Yang that can work toward commercialization easily or with easier somehow. So one of the critical challenges is regulatory barrier. And then the second one, of course, is the high development cost. Just to give you an idea, all the process that goes from research toward the commercialization, which ends with the type certification, costs in average from 1 to 2 billion. So as you can imagine, this is one of the reasons why certain companies were able to reach a certain level, but then were not able to comply with the final steps of the commercialization. The third critical challenge on the other end is public acceptance. We are working on that. The fact that we are disseminating with our project is definitely very important, but people are still worried about noise pollution, privacy violation, and so. And this is related on one side to passenger, eVTOL, but also for a project that relates maybe to what we are here for, like civil protection projects or like logistic projects, because people are worried about privacy, for instance. The fourth critical challenge is infrastructure readiness. I already mentioned before, you reach a certain point in commercialization and then you need infrastructure. Infrastructure needs to come with public commitment. If you don't have public commitment, it's difficult for private to be able to create network. You can definitely create a vertiport, but a vertiport needs to speak with another vertiport, and you need to create a network first nationally and then internationally. If you don't have public involvement on this, will always be difficult. And finally, the fifth point is, as I mentioned before, the shift in funding. So we need to move from venture capital to public funding. This comes with together with the fourth point. Finally, the sixth critical challenge is the global leadership divergence. What I mentioned before, Asian one side, and the Western country on the other side. If we are not able to somehow mitigate and reach an agreement on the regulatory framework, we'll always have two different pace in area market development. Okay, that's basically explain what I already mentioned, so maybe we can go faster on that. This is just an example of what I mentioned when I say that it's difficult to move from the research and the proof of concept toward commercialization, while E-Young is already working. This is a news from last week. Vertical Aerospace, which is a UK-based company, has been granted approval by the UK Civil Aviation to move from hover to cruise test. And this is a very important accomplishment. It looks like something basic, but it's probably the first time for a Western operating company. Okay. So now I'm going to move from the global outlook toward the Italian outlook. As you can see, we are facing pretty much the same scenario. There are many similarities between the two outlooks. So we once again saw a downturn, which came a little later. We saw the change, the shift at global level was made in 2001. In Italy, the shift was made last year, but unfortunately, we are facing pretty much the same situation. And we can say that the downturn probably is attributed to mainly two reasons. One is the delay in the deployment of electric air taxis, what we said before, because of the regulatory framework, because of the high cost of development, we are facing a delay. All of you probably have heard in the past that they were announcing the first demonstration during the Paris Olympic Games. In Italy, we were also publishing the news that we were doing the first trip with an eVTOL from Milano to Cortina. This is very unlikely that will happen. We are facing probably 2 years of delay, but this is the reason. And also, same situation that we saw at global level, a movement from eVTOL toward inspection and drones. What we can see here is like a segmentation, a classification of where the money is depending on the segment. So far, the most funded segment was the one related to image and data acquisition. So we're talking about drones that were embarking sensor to acquiring image for Earth observation, for instance. And here we are moving from 248 million to an expected 448 million in 2030. Passenger transport is not very developed in Italy, so we were moving from 15 million, and we are talking about research and development only, toward an expected 320 million for 2030. Defense was already important in Italy, and we are expecting 321 million in 2030. But the one that is probably most interesting for us is the cargo transportation, where all the case studies related to civil protection, for instance, are. And although right now it's only for amount 63 million, we are expecting to reach 327 million in 2030. Aerial work is just a minimal part of this market, although most of the aerial work money is actually in the first segment. This is coming from a PricewaterhouseCoopers source. I'm moving now toward the second part of my presentation, where I'm going to introduce the Piedmont ecosystem. So from the global perspective, we move to the Italian, and now I'd like to introduce to our region. I'm the cluster manager, as I mentioned before, of the ICT Innovation Hub. In Piedmont, there are actually 7 clusters working in each of them in their vertical. I'm talking about the agri-food, the advanced manufacturing, sustainable technologies, textile, which are basically following the priority system of our region, talking about the smart specialization strategy. The news coming last year is that the 7 innovation hubs are now working synergically, and we are called now a cluster of clusters. So the difference is now that all our members can actually work together, because we are developing an integrated CRM able to connect a company from different verticals in order for them to create partnership for innovation purpose, of course. Thank you. Here, together with the 7 regional clusters I mentioned, I also highlighted the 3 priority transition for our region. On one side, we have the digital transition, which works basically horizontally toward each vertical, but we are also taking care, based on, of course, the European goals toward the ecological transition, and finally toward the wellness and communities transition. Of course, we all know that aerial mobility comes at the intersection between digital transition and ecological transition. So it's absolutely in target with the priorities of our region. And we are going to see later on why I'm saying this when we are going to explore our smart specialization strategy. Here is just, the presentation of our 7 clusters. And here are some numbers about our cluster. Together, we are actually affiliating 1,500 members. The ICT cluster alone has, at this moment, 330 members that are coming from all the ICT sector. And also, we have together, including present and past members, a community of 3,000 members, company that goes from startup, of course, as I said before, toward large company. And we're able to work together, which means in a open innovation perspective, we are able to connect startup with large company. Leonardo is here today, and by the way, is one of our founder. And so what we do is work with large company, we listen to them, we listen to their need, and we provide them with technology scouting, looking toward our small and medium enterprise or startup. Thank you. And finally, we can proudly say that together with our member, we were able to support them in receiving a total of more than 490 million in funding, which means in 15 years of work, we support proposal that our company deploy in different type of program, coming from Horizon to European Space Agency funding, and of course, regional funding. And finally, just a quick number related to how many projects we actually activated, and there are more than 1,500. This is pretty much the same picture that we saw before related to my cluster, the ICT cluster. As I said before, 330 members. And this is basically the breakdown between startup and large company. As you can see, of course, we have the majority of members that are startup or micro enterprises, and these follow basically the structure of the Italian ecosystem, because as you probably know, the majority of companies in Italy are very small companies. But we also have a good number of small and medium enterprise and 8% of large corporation. We also have 12% of university and research institution. We have here Link Foundation with us and Polytechnic of Torino, which are of course our member. And this is really important for us because we are able to habilitate, research project that place together institution and company. And one of our main goals is really to match and create the partnership. Okay, what are the enabling technology within my cluster? If you can see, it didn't come up. Okay, so in this slide, I was actually presenting all the enabling technology. I'm talking about, of course, blockchain, artificial intelligence, Web 3.0, cybersecurity, and all the technology that are actually enabling. I don't know why, and then the slide didn't come up with this. Of course, as I said before, because air mobility comes at the intersection between ICT, automotive, and aerospace, all the company within the innovation cluster are able to operate and work in aerial mobility projects. Yeah, thank you. So how we work in supporting company. We have a mandate from the Piedmont region to update and keep track of the S3. So I don't know if you are familiar with the smart specialization strategy. It's a European strategy which is different for each region and describe the priority area where the investment funding should go. What we do, we create actually an innovation tool, which is basically a survey, and we are actually collecting all the ideas and the project that our region is willing to work on. Actually, I said our region, but I'm talking about the companies of our region are willing to work on. We are mapping them. We are trying to match the ideas with the smart specialization strategy so that the smart specialization strategy could perfectly fit the projects and the willingness to innovate of our company. And we're doing this, as I said before, by listening to our company, both large and small company, understanding their needs, providing guidance and support to proposal, but most of all, updating the research agenda of the region. Okay, so that there's always there's not going to be a mismatch between what the companies want and what the actually region is financing. So what are the priority area of investment for our region? Aerospace, mobility, green technology, advanced manufacturing, food, and health. As you can see, we're not talking about sectors, we're talking about priority area, and the reason is because it's no longer we cannot work in terms of silos. We are not talking about well-defined area of research, but now let's take, for instance, my field in the ICT. It's definitely horizontal to all the sectors and industry. So it's more important to talk about priority areas. And as I said before, all the 6 priority areas work together with the digital, the ecological, and the wellness transition. This is actually the tool I mentioned before, the one that is able to map the projects and the ideas of our companies. We call it entrepreneurial discovery, and it's managed by us, by the 7 cluster of the region. And on the other end is a continuously upgrading tool. Okay, and we are asking periodically our company to change and update their ideas, and we are keeping track of them in a database. This is very useful because now, thanks to this tool, I will be able to tell you how many companies are in fact investing in aerial mobility. So, as I mentioned before, 6 priority systems. They are divided into 35 development trajectories, and the 35 development trajectories are divided into 135 application fields. We went through all the 135 application fields, and we understood that 28 of them relate somehow to drones. So these really tell us that the Piedmont region is absolutely willing to invest in this segment. And the other things is this list highlights basically the project related only to our region that are actually funding within the smart specialization strategy. So Casa delle Tecnologie Emergenti, CTE, is where we are today now, and is hosting and hosting demonstrators and tests, but they also had a challenge related to urban air mobility, and 2 companies were actually founded within this project. One of the company was AB0 that we saw the presentation this morning. The PR-FESR program is involving a total of 250 million within 3 years. So far, 2 years were deployed, up to 160 million. So we are waiting for the last tranche. NODES is a regional ecosystem that funded more than 120 million. And HD Motion and Expand are actually 2 ADIH, which the Piedmont region is part of. The total of this program funded 400 million. So as you can see, it's quite a lot. So by using the discovery tool I mentioned before, we were able to find out that within our region, there were 2 projects financed by the call I mentioned of the Casa delle Tecnologie, which was a call related specifically to urban air mobility. 10 projects were submitted and funded into the switch program, which was the PR-FES program. We found 15 ideas in the discovery tool. We still don't know if they've been funded or not because they were sent to us as an idea, not as a project. We're waiting to know how many projects were submitted and admitted to the Switch 2 program, because it's in the evaluation phase right now. And 5 projects were submitted to NODES, always related. When I'm talking about air mobility, I'm talking in a very generalistic way to all the use cases related to drone or through eVTOL. We are trying to do the same by analyzing all the projects that were financed through the ESA program and also to the Horizon Europe. Unfortunately, I don't have the number for this yet. And so if we take all the projects I mentioned before and we are dividing into the segment, we are seeing the most funded project were drone related to agriculture. So we are talking about precision farming use case. But also 7 projects were related to environmental monitoring and emergency response. So we are totally in target with today's workshop. And some other projects were related to logistics, infrastructure maintenance, aerospace application on a smaller amount, healthcare, and urban air mobility. Thank you. So, to conclude, this is just an example of how our company within the region Piedmont try to cooperate. SkySpark is a project that originates in 2007 with the willing to develop the first 100% electric aircraft. We are talking about a traditional aircraft. The project was able to make a flight. The flight was done by ESA astronaut Maurizio Kelly, which actually won the Speed World mi viene la parola, record, thank you, the Speed World record in 2007. So now we are facing a second phase, which is SkySpark 2. The goal is to put together company of the region in order to create the value chain to develop an eVTOL. Their willing is not to commercialize and to come with a product, but to be able to demonstrate that the region hosts all the assets and capability to be able to cover the full value chain. And I'm leaving to the other projects right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica, for your deep insight. Now, since you mentioned both Links Foundation and the Politecnico, I would quickly go and ask the Politecnico, here represented by Stefano Primatesta, what are the regulatory challenges you see in the immediate future for urban air mobility?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'll be quite fast because what I'd like to discuss now are the open challenges nowadays with the use of drones in urban areas. In this morning, I have already explained to you the challenges and the barriers that we found in the indoor project. If you analyze, most of the flight operation in urban areas are always conducted also in BVLOS, but in most of the scenario over a controlled ground area, or in some special cases also over sparsely populated area. And here we have the first question: how to quantify the population density in a urban area. This is also one of the limitations that we can find in the SORA, because when you conduct the risk assessment, they are defining the risk with qualitative quantities of the population density. even if somewhere you can find some threshold of the number of people in order to consider a sparsely or a populated area or a crowd of people. But this is one of the first questions that we need to answer in order to going ahead also with the flight operation in urban area. Most of these scenarios are always in segregated airspace or often with the adoption of the airspace observers. And according also to the National Aviation Authority, most of these operations are with the risk 1 or 2, according to the sail level that now we don't have time to discuss what's the sail level, but roughly speaking is the level of risk in which sail 1 and 2 are low risk flight, 3 and 4 are with the medium risk, 5 and 6 are with the high risk. But currently, if we have most of the flight are in the sail 1 and 2, currently sail 3 operation are very hard to handle. And with the sail greater than 3, it is currently impossible to reform, because according to EASA, we should need the LUC, that is the Light UAS certificate, that is required. If I'm not wrong, in Italy, the LUC certificate, just 1 or 2 UAS operators have it, but it is very hard to conduct flight with this type of risk. But it is clear that due to these operational limitations, we are limiting a lot the use of drones, and we are not exploiting their true potential. In my point of view, the main issues nowadays are these two. It's something that I have already discussed during the speech about the indoor project, because I think that if we want to enable the use of drone, and I'm talking about drones with maximum takeoff mass lower than 25 kilos, the main issues nowadays is, first, we don't have a drone with a sort of certification that enable its use over urban area. I know that we already have the European label class from C0 to C5 and 6, but they do not offer a sufficient guarantee in order to fly over urban areas. And in my point of view, this is a strong limitation nowadays. EASA know that we have this problem, and then they also just publishing the first documents. For instance, one of the documents that was published in the end of the 2023 was the mock that defines some design of the drone to be used with the sail free. Another issue, in my point of view, is, and it is also one of the main issues when I have to conduct the risk assessment, is that it is very difficult to define the population density in an area. And I'm talking about the real estimate. Then we cannot use the instant data that define where people are living, but what we need is to know where people are. It is not easy to estimate it. EASA already highlighted this need. In fact, they also already scheduled a couple of workshops about this problem. There are also some companies in Europe, especially the telcos, that are able to provide this type of data, especially in the 5G4LIVES project, where we are also trying to developing a tool that can be used for the risk assessment of drone. We are working with wind threat that they are providing to us an estimation of the population density in the city of Turin, considering historical data. And in my point of view, this is this is an essential data that we need, because especially in the SORA 2.5 that it will be adopted by EASA, I don't know exactly when, but probably before the next year, we have to evaluate the population density in order to define the ground risk level. And then it is an essential data that in this project we have this type of data thanks to wind threat, but in my point of view, we need for a sort of public database that can be used by any UAS operator. Obviously, these are not only these are just in my opinion the main issue that should be solved in order to enable the use of drone in urban area. But as already mentioned before, and also in the speeches in this morning, we have also several other open problems. First of all, the UAS traffic management, because, okay, now we have just a few drones that are flying over cities, but if in the next future we will have several drones, we also need to manage the traffic of drone, and especially the integration with the ATM, and then it is exactly one of the goals of the use of the use space. And then the others are well known, and the privacy and data protection, also the noise management and the containment, because it is a topic that should be solved. Probably not the main problem with small drones, but it will be a problem for certified drones for the transport, for the passenger transport and other applications, and also the public acceptance. That is one of the main barriers for the use of drone in urban area. Yeah, that's it, because what I'd like to discuss in this roundtable is also talk about this topic. And I don't know if you have any question about this topic, or also the other people in the roundtable, if you have any question to discuss about this topic.
Thank you. So now I would like to ask Gianfranco Todesco, what's your vision for the future?
It's very easy, the question. Come si fa? Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gianfranco Todesco. I work in the multidisciplinary team that deals with innovation and air mobility of the city of Turin. And I will briefly talk about drones and cities in Europe. Sorry for the slide, but the technology is not good now. As you can see, flying drones in cities in Europe today is still a vulnerous flight. And this greatly limits the development of possible service with drones. For BVLOS, we have only POC and pilot of project. To increase and improve services in cities through drones, we must overcome two challenges. One technological challenges and one regulatory simplification for flying in BVLOS. Cities can do a lot to help aviation authorities enabling urban airways for drones. For example, use a methodology to identify routes with reduced aeronautical risk, overflying rivers, tree, house roof, etc., and create technological infrastructures on the ground, which we'll see in detail later, the next slide. As you can see, in addition to sensors to improve flight safety, tools are also needed to protect airway from illegal drones that may cause accident with drone operating in vivo loss. It's possible for the city, this. Here you can see how the city of Turin is acting on this issue while concerning the technological challenge. I leave the floor to Alice, but we working to the simplify to the regulatory challenge. This is my vision of the future. And now I will pass the talk to Alice that will explain how we deal with the technological challenge. How many times fly one drone? The topic is this, is very interesting. How many times?
Thank you, Gianfranco. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me. Right. Thank you, Gianfranco. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to present for the first time the innovative airship drone. I'm Alice Antonelli, and I'm an aerospace engineer, and I'm working with CIM 4.0. And I do now a brief presentation of who are we. As CIM 4.0, we are one of the 8 competence centers in Turin, and we are highly specialized on training, guidance, and project development. We are a consortium made of 26 full partners, and we are a public-private organism. We have our grounds at the Polytechnic of Turin, and we assist companies in their journey toward the technological processes and product maturity, increasing their digital and sustainable competitiveness. These are our areas of expertise. We have 2 pilot lines, one of additive manufacturing, the other one in digital factory. But we have expertise also in the upskilling and reskilling, doing an academy program, and for our program of innovation and venture lab. In CIM 4.0, we developed 1 year ago, we started developing 1 year ago the airship drone project. And this project will give life to Crossovery, that will be the startup and the project will represent it. So, which is our vision? Building a future where aerial platform revolutionize the way we monitor, explore, and interact with our environment, transforming the sky into a strategic resource to connect, protect, and support global communities through innovative airship drones, helping to create a safer, more efficient, and sustainable world. And that's our mission. So we want to create an aerial platform that has an aerial point of view that can take pictures and other data from the sky and it has the feature that there is no operators needed, and the peculiarity is the modularity. So you can apply on it different payload depending on the necessities. For example, camera, different sensors, LiDAR. And yeah, the peculiarities are that it has a high flight time and it can operate in quietness. And that's important for an indoor condition and for an outdoor too. Everything started from here, from the problem, for a problem of the flight time of quadcopter. We saw that the quadcopter that we had in our laboratory had 30 minutes of flight time, and we tried to find a solution. We analyzed it, and we saw that the battery was reduced only staying in a stable flight without speed, so zero speed. The drone immobile in the space, and after 10 minutes for that old drone, in 10 minutes the battery was totally off. So we made an experiment, and you can see in the picture the first proof of concept that we made, that consisted in attaching a balloon with helium over the drone. And we had the result that from 10 minutes, the flight time passed to 40 minutes. So 400% more. And there we started to develop the idea, and we started with the first conceptual design, and we presented that patent that has unique characteristics for the modularity of the structure, and the possibility to detach the drone from the balloon. Why the balloon? Not a simple balloon, but a balloon that has also propulsion. So that's why the name airship drone. The balloon is an airship, so an aerostat with propulsion inside, and there is the drone, a quadcopter attached behind it. So here is how it's made, and which is the main geometry. I think it's easily explained. You have here the airship envelope, the structures, propulsion, the drone behind everything, and it has the sufficient propulsion to move in the space. So we made last month the first test, and it flight for more than 8 hours. So we are happy for this, and we will show it for the first time in the automation and testing event here in Turin, if you would like to come to see it. Here we have a brief market positioning. So we want to occupy this area, this green rectangular. You can see on the Epsilon the flight time and the range in the horizontal axis. We can have potentially days of flying. We can tether the airship drone in a position where there are flight conditions that are adverse, but also detach the drone when there is a need to surveil an area or to do monitoring. And which are the pros and cons of the main competitors? So in this area we find the quadcopter, and over the airship drone, the dirigibles, the airships. The pro of the airship drone against a drone is the quietness, the flyability also in rain condition. You can have continuous video recording and have a higher flight time. Also, this duration in tethered condition. The cons are the wind sensitive, because it has a bigger volume, but you can tether it. It has less speed and less agility, but it depends from the mission that you want to do. These are performances that are required or not, and big dimensions and the helium operating cost that we should consider. If we compare it with the dirigible, it has a lot of pros, as you can see, because you can have modularity, the drone detaching, flight at low altitude too, and littler dimension compared with the dirigible, so less cost, operating cost due to helium. Here, the performance and use cases that we can embrace, for example, surveillance of borders, streets, sites event, and also event photography at festival, for example, or fairs with the publicitary function too. Inspection, for example, for agriculture or high voltage pylons, or also infrastructure, so tunnel, buildings, and mapping and search and rescue to search people and natural disasters. These are some of the use cases where we can be operative. And for example, the monitoring of safety of the city, for example, Turin, the monitoring in the agricultural field, the communication, also using it as an aerial platform to take photos, but also as a bridge radio, in case there is no good communication due to the lot of people in a place, and the surveillance of borders. Yes?
I'm sorry. For testing this object in the testing area of the city of Turin have opened the sandbox with ENAC. The problem is, what is this? Is a drone? Is balloon? The problem is this, okay? And we have opened the sandbox with ENAC for this, for testing.
Okay, so thank you for your attention. Thank you, Gianfranco.
So are there any final questions to this session? No, there's not yet the spritz, Gianfranco. Yeah, we have a question.
Hello. I only would like to ask what is the TRL of the solution?
We are now at a technology readiness level, or more of 5. We are looking for use cases where we can apply our prototype. As I told before, we have a prototype right now that will expose at the automation and testing event here in Turin at the middle of February. And yeah, we will do the first exhibition. So that's the first occasion to let the airship drone flight with a long time. And that will be a challenge for us too. And I think that we can express also the capability of the airship drone inserting payload with a camera that can count the people that pass under it. Yes, that will be the first one, and we hope to find, if you have suggestion, also the right scenario to apply it, where it can manifest its peculiarities at its best. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, just one, is not technical, but is commercial question. how your solution keeps the pace with already commercial solution like stratospheric balloons or something like that. They're more or less have the same features, because involve space, or startup like that already founded millions, okay, in this, and the TRL is really high right now. How do you compare with this kind of solutions?
Yes.
Thank you.
We know that the competitors are a lot. We saw that DJI, for example, so quadcopter have the 80% of the market of drones. And we know also that there are technologies like the one of Involve Space, thank you, sorry, that operates and they have a TRL that is bigger than our. Our strengths are that it is a modular solution, and we found proposing the idea and the concept different use cases. Just to give you an example, we didn't thought about it at the beginning of the project, but for example, we knew Alta Definizione, that is a company that was acquired from Panini, the Panini of the calciatori, the football player.
And for our international.
And what do? They do fantastic works, I think, because they take picture of freschi. Sorry, the name. Frescos, paintings inside buildings. So we can find a church with a very old painting inside that should be restored, if that's the name in English, sorry, and also maintained. And that's a very, very big cultural richness. And with the drone, or with trabattelli, so with structure inside, they take picture with high resolution. And they asked us to have an aerial platform to don't damage the painting. It's because with the helix of the drones, they have that risks that with an airship drone they don't have. And they can also take on bigger payload, that for the structure of the ship drone is more stable to manage. So we discovered some weird use cases, and yeah, as you saw before in the presentation, the technical characteristics of the ship drone are in a middle, okay, between the ones of the quadcopter and between the one of the stratospheric balloon, so aerostats in general. The airship drone has a geometry and a dimension that is not so big, so you can use it also in an indoor environment. And so all the use cases there are use cases that are unknown, maybe right now, but maybe there will be the need to use it. And there we want to go. We want to discover where it can be helpful. You're welcome.